Greetings to one and all. This will be my second tutorial on how to play a Ventrue character vampire in Vampire the Masquerade role-playing game, and today I want to talk to you about the Camarilla. However, I must state that even though I played the game for a while, I am no expert. So if you see me make a mistake, feel free to point it out in the comments. Camarilla, or the Ivory Tower, is basically the Ventrue clan's creation, and they are very proud of it. It is their crowning achievement, and as such, every Ventrue is expected to know its workings. Like the Ventrue clan itself, it has strict rules, but it established itself as the dominant sect in the kindred community. Camarilla was created after the Spanish Inquisition died down. During the Inquisition, to escape pitchforks and torches, many elders would leave their children for the inquisitors while they ran away. They would even embrace some poor soul on the road and leave them behind clueless to slow their pursuers down. The surviving children fled to the Ottoman Empire, where they joined with the clan Asamite, whose clan had been cursed by Bali with an addiction to diablerie, and together they started a very successful campaign against their treacherous elders. Thus the first Anarch Revolt was born. This conflict was brought to an end by a Ventrue named Hardestadt the Elder. He called the leaders of both sides to a convention of thorns, where he and elders of other clans forged a truce between Anarchs, Asamites, and most European clans, establishing the rules and traditions of the Camarilla. Most of these traditions had been devised by the Ventrue of old, and had proven so effective that the other clans had been practicing them as well. The end result was that peace was achieved. The Asamites were subjected to a Tremere curse, which made diablerie impossible for them. Initially, they were of course against it, but the Nosferatu blackmailed them. Sometimes during the Anarch Revolt, a lone Nosferatu discovered the Asamite clan's most closely guarded secret, the location of their stronghold of Alamut in the Middle East. The Asamites were a secluded bunch, and they liked to stay away from the jihad, often dwelling in Alamut, to wait out the turmoil other clans would stir up. And the Nosferatu threatened to expose Alamut's location to everyone if the Asamites did not comply. Had they refused, it would have forever ended their peace and neutrality. So they submitted to the Tremere curse. Because of this, they didn't join with the Camarilla, but they agreed to a truce with them. This also allowed the Tremere to become an officially acknowledged clan. The last and perhaps the most important thing that happened on this convention was that Cain and the Antediluvians were branded as a ridiculous legend. Because of this, the clans of La Sombra and the Asamites became outraged. Both clans claimed they had killed their respective Antediluvians but a short time ago, and now Hardestadt was calling them liars. They labeled Ventrue as puppets of the sleeping elders, the Camarilla as the creation of the Antediluvians, designed to destroy them all, and they went off to form their own sect, the Sabbat, to grow strong and fight in the name of Cain in the oncoming Gehenna. I'm not exactly sure why the Camarilla side of the table was pushing for this. Maybe Hardestadt wanted them cast out, or maybe it was their Gehenna preparations which led to the Inquisition in the first place. After all, the La Sombra had the strongest influence over the Catholic Church at the time. Maybe the Sabbat is right, and the Antediluvians did pull Hardestadt's strings. If you know, fill me in with a comment. Groups from all other clans joined the Sabbat too, and these groups came to be known as anti-tribu clans. Despite this, the majority accepted the Camarilla to ensure safety from each other and the mortal fanatics. I should also mention that since then, every time the Camarilla officials would come across some kind of evidence of the existence of Cain and the Antediluvians, they would either covertly destroy it, or else hoard it for themselves. Many artifacts the Sabbat would love to get their hands on had vanished in this way. The Camarilla has 6 traditions that all kindred must follow, and they are: the masquerade. Keep the existence of vampires a secret from the mortals. The domain. If you have a domain of your own, it is your territory, and all others must abide by your rules when they are in your domain. The progeny. You cannot sire any children without the permission from the ruler of the domain you reside in. This is what it means when the prince gives someone the right of siring. The accounting. From the moment you embrace them and until you release them from your care, your child is your responsibility. So if a child makes a mistake during this time, the sire will be to blame. The hospitality. When visiting another's domain, present yourself to its ruler and abide by his rules. An example is presenting yourself to the prince when coming to a new town. And the destruction. Only the ruler of the domain can order the final death of a kindred and call for a blood hunt. This also means that if you want to kill another kindred, you must petition the prince for the right of destruction for that single specific target. Be mindful of these traditions. Often I have seen fledglings grow angry and insult their host, or get provoked and pick a fight in another's domain, or even kill someone without the prince's permission. The results are less than pleasant. Up until recently, the anarchs were tolerated and considered a part of the Camarilla, even if they didn't see themselves as such. As long as they followed these 6 traditions, they were left to fend for themselves. Since V5 edition came out, all 3 sects are at war with each other. The Sabbat were never tolerated. They are considered a grave threat and a danger to all kindred. Killing them is often granted without the prince's permission. The Giovanni are permanently excluded from Camarilla benefits, and dealing with them is forbidden under Camarilla aegis. However, this does not prevent anyone from dealing with them under the table or outside of Camarilla. And the Asamites were to be left alone, though Camarilla officials sometimes employed them as assassins. For that, they would charge in vitae for their employment, which their mages in Alamut would use in their rituals to try and break the Tremere curse. If you imagine the Camarilla as a pyramid system, then the inner circle, a collection of the oldest, most powerful, and most influential elders in existence, is at its very top. Hardestadt, the first of the founders, is their most prominent member. They meet once every 13 years in Venice to appoint justicars and discuss matters. These meetings are called conclaves. Nothing else is known about the inner circle because they go through great lengths to be invisible. The justicars, on the other hand, are the visible hands of the inner circle and represent the ultimate justice within the Camarilla. Only a justicar can oppose another justicar. Each Camarilla clan has only one, and the inner circle appoints them on each conclave to their most capable clanmates. Justicar's primary duties are to hunt those who threaten Camarilla laws, to deal with dangerous diablerists, and to lead a war against the other sects. They rely heavily on fear, terror, and intimidation, and they cultivate and employ these skills with great finesse. When a justicar is to arrive to town, all differences are put aside, all mortals who are a masquerade breach are killed, and everyone strives to be on their best behavior. Usually a justicar is hunting for only one person or one particular coterie at any given time. but they do employ agents called archons to be their eyes and ears and enforcers. Archons are linked to their justicar by a blood bond, and there are different kinds of archons for different tasks. According to the Camarilla, every domain is presided over by a prince who holds praxis over it. The domain is most often a city, but on occasion it can be several cities. Resident kindred of good standing may petition to have their apartments or places of business declared their domains within the prince's, subject to his rules. The prince's right hand is the seneschal, who has all the same powers and authorities as the prince, kind of like the hand of the king from the Game of Thrones. Therefore, the prince has to choose his seneschal carefully, lest the seneschal overthrow him. The two of them have the ultimate power within the domain. They can grant someone right of siring or destruction, revoke someone's status, call a blood hunt, allow or deny someone their own domain, and so on. When a new kindred comes to town, by the fifth tradition, they must first introduce themselves to the prince or the seneschal and pay a trivial boon in order to be tolerated. They also award status to all the Camarilla kindred in the domain. The higher your status, the more weight your words carry. If evidence is lacking in a dispute, status is the deciding factor. Fledglings who are not yet released by their sire have no status in the Camarilla and cannot trade in boons with other Camarilla kindred. All the statuses you may earn are in the description of this video. The next most influential individuals are the Primogen, which are representatives of every Camarilla clan in the domain, and together they make up the Primogen Council. They have much power and can even bring a prince down, if he moves against their wishes. What a Primogen says or does is often seen as the official position of the entire clan, so a clan should pay close attention to their Primogen. The prince or the other Primogen can use any excuse to cause them trouble. A prince can also call for a change of seasons, disbanding the old Primogen Council and having the clans appoint new ones. This can be done only once every 3 months, and most often the clans elect the same Primogen as before, but if the prince manipulates the matters successfully, he can get rid of a particularly bothersome Primogen or tie up the council while he completes his plans without their interference. If this is done too often, though, the whole domain risks being labeled as the domain of bad standing. Those are the individuals with the most political power. The ones with the most social power are the harpies, led by the Grand Harpy. The harpies can make the prince call a blood hunt, they can destroy someone's reputation, unseat the prince, or bring down the entire domain. They do this by keeping track of who does what in the domain, who owes whom which boons, and follow the rumors and gossip or even start it. The harpies are one of the few, aside from the princes, who have any say on the meeting of the princes called the symposiums, and their words carry great weight. Even justicars listen to the harpies. The harpies are particularly dangerous because they can label anyone, even the prince, a boon breaker, one who fails to repay a favor when it is asked for. Victims of such branding may find themselves expelled from the domain or even executed. If a prince is labeled a boon breaker, the domain instantly becomes the domain of bad standing, and the Primogen Council often overthrows him within days. So if someone fails to repay their debt to you, notify the harpy of it. The sheriff is the one in charge of enforcing the will of the prince and the council in a given domain and making sure the laws are obeyed. Most often it is a position for a bruiser/bully, though a few tend to be idealistic and just. When a blood hunt is called, the sheriff leads the charge against the kindred in question. Next to the sheriff there is also the scourge, who patrols the domain and violently deals with rule breakers and those not acknowledged. It is often held by someone the prince wants away from his court and who also has a taste for cruelty. Running into the scourge is seldom a pleasant experience. The last important position of the domain is the keeper of Elysium. Elysiums are safe havens for Camarilla kindred, where all acts of violence and all use of disciplines are strictly prohibited. A wise policy is for the sheriff and the keeper to work well together so that the sheriff can step in at the smallest violation of Elysium and punish the unlucky offender. All of these positions have their seconds. Primogen has the whip, sheriff has the hounds, keeper has keeper's aides, and so on. But I will not speak of that here. Every domain is sectioned off into territories according to which clan resides in it, and each clan is the main authority and caretaker of their territory. Think in terms of gangs. A Ventrue can feed only on the Ventrue clan's territory within the city, though the right to feed on their territory can be given to outsiders who prove friendly. Same goes for other clans, so be careful where you eat, lest you antagonize the neighbors. It is also worth mentioning that the Gangrel clan had left the Camarilla in 1999, but they have swiftly returned to the fold afterwards. At the moment, the Gangrel and all anarchs are split off from the Camarilla and are in a sort of a cold war with them. Also since V5, the Asamites had decided to join fully with the Camarilla after Camarilla aided them against the Sabbat in the Gehenna War. Their strength was welcomed with open arms after Gangrel and Bruja split off. So that is it for the end of my second tutorial. Let me know how you liked it in the comments below, and I'll see you again soon.